before we get started on this episode, do you like when I ask you trivia questions? Be honest, yes or no. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you just
Sure.
indifferent about it? Okay, because I
Before
have
we
a few.
start the trivia, can I make a request?
Well, no, you should have done this before the show started, but whatever. I'll give you a pass. Go ahead.
Can we look for some intro music that is more Stranger Things soundtrack vibe since we're going into spooky season and season 5 of Stranger Things?
I feel like I've had this conversation with you before, but I don't recall. Are you? I think it must be Jay that hates it. Are you?
Yeah.
I love it, but do you love it? Do you guys watch it?
Oh yeah.
My wife and I, well, my whole family watched all of the all seasons once my daughter said we should watch it, and now we're all very gung ho about the release. So we all, it's a thing for us. So I'm pretty pumped about it too. But
Yeah.
yes, so you're thinking like maybe some atmospheric, suspenseful type of
But it's got to be
vibe
like
to
80s synth.
yeah, okay, I could do that. I mean, we maybe are going to run the risk of
We'll
of a
just find like a
violation, but we'll
royalty
see.
free one. Or we pay for license. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, here are 5 tough trivia questions for you, and we'll see how you do, and then we'll get on to the crux of the show. How many ATP molecules does a single glucose molecule yield during aerobic respiration under ideal conditions?
A single one, I think it's 4.
Maybe I asked it wrong. I don't know because I got this is a much higher number than that.
It depends. Does it
So
go all the way through oxidative phosphorylation?
the question doesn't specify. I'll just tell you the answer. It says 36 to 38 ATP, depending on cell type and efficiency of the electron transport chain. So yes, it
Oh,
sounds like
okay.
it is.
I thought you were talking about just glycolysis.
Gotcha. All right. Roughly what percentage of your brain's total energy consumption is used by the visual cortex while you're awake?
Oh
If you
my
had to guess.
god. A lot. So what percentage of total, or what percentage of total used by your brain?
Um, what percentage of your brain's total energy consumption is used by the visual cortex while you're awake?
60%.
I would have said probably about that too. It's still high, 30 to 40%, which
Okay.
is still pretty damn high.
Okay, so just to go back, it is 4 are produced during glycolysis from one glucose molecule. It does take 2 to go through all the reactions. So the net is 2, but the gross is 4. So just
Okay,
to
you're
clarify. Now, if
I
it's
get-
all the way, if it's all the way through oxidative phosphorylation, what happens is
Then it's the
pyruvate ends up in the Krebs cycle, and then you get a whole bunch of stuff.
That's-
NAD and the yeah.
so that's where they're getting the 36 to 38. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I got 3 more, then we'll move on, but these should be good. If you compress all the empty space out of every atom in every human on Earth, the resulting mass would fit into what approximate size would you say? This is an earthly analogy that you're familiar with. Like are we talking the size of a microwave, the size of a grain of sand? What would you say if you compress all the empty space out of every atom in every human on Earth? What would the resulting mass fit into approximately?
A basketball.
Okay, it's a good guess. A sugar cube.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was on the kind of right order of magnitude
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah. You're not far off.
Although,
Okay, 2 more. Exercise science. What's the fastest known rate at which human skeletal muscle protein synthesis can occur post resistance training, expressed as a percentage per hour? These are tough.
Oh my god. Are you talking about like how is this being measured? Is it FSR?
It doesn't say. Yeah, I suppose.
And is this a percentage above baseline, or is this like an absolute number?
I the way this reads is an absolute number.
And what are the units it's expressed in?
Percentage per hour.
Okay, so that's a percentage.
Yeah.
For how many hours? Like these are all the.
You know,
I can't answer this question.
I know you're trying to arrive at the answer. I get it. I'll just tell you because I don't think I'm going to have the answers for you. But around 0.05 to 0.1% per hour, meaning full muscle protein turnover takes roughly 2 to 3 months.
That was maybe the most poorly worded, confusing question I've ever been asked in my life. I don't think it's your fault.
Just no, yeah. Okay, last one. Before Isaac Newton, which scientist first proposed that color is a property of light, not the object being observed? I've never heard of this guy for what it's worth. I'm pretty decent with history, but
I don't know.
I'm going to totally butcher this name, but
It's French, right?
Ibn al-Haytham al-Hazan.
Oh,
11th century physicist, centuries before Newton's prism
yeah.
experiment.
So he was
experiments.
he was probably from like the Middle East, right? Arabic culture.
Yeah, yes, and
Yeah.
I think we've actually talked about that, you and I,
The
before.
like
Where that is like they were
what
pretty good with that stuff.
1000 to like 1200 AD. That
Yeah,
culture. I mean, the concept of zero came from there.
yeah, right.
Algebra came from there. So lots of mathematical stuff came out of that culture at that time.
That's what it was. It was the math conversation that we had, because you were talking about how good the ancient Greeks were with math, but you were like, no, before that, the people in the Middle East were actually really good too. So, okay, well, we'll move on. This episode is going to be awesome for you guys. We've kind of touched on this before, but we're going to talk about lifting weights. We've done an episode on resistance training, so it's kind of the same thing, but at this point, I feel like it's worth a revisit for the new people that are, have never seen the show before, but also, just kind of touching on the things that you guys need to know about lifting weights, whether that's, should I start lifting weights if I don't? What are the benefits? Do I need to worry about, am I going to get too bulky? Like, if most of our audience is female, right? So females tend to wonder, what is this going to do for me? I can see what it does for guys. Should I start lifting weights? So we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to dive into some science of it. We'll dive into the personal side of things and kind of really, give you guys, by the end of this, you should have a better idea of whether you're doing the right things. And then if you're not resistance training, if you're not lifting weights, it'll give you an idea of whether you think you should or not. I always think it's a good idea, but we'll get there. So I would say, though, that's probably the best, most powerful way to reshape your body, right? Or, and there's nothing wrong with cardio, but lifting weights is really, there's sort of this perception, right, that's for bodybuilders or specific athletes, and maybe for the average person that's not. But I really think it's one of the best ways to boost your health, don't you think? I mean, we know it's incredibly beneficial in many ways. So I just think it's a very underrated tool. Maybe we could start there. And like you've said before, Brad, lifting weights might be. Well, I'll let you take away before I give my extra thoughts.
I mean, if you just look at the human body, it is effectively a brain that moves through the environment with muscles moving rigid structures, your bones. And obviously your brain's important, your heart's important, your lungs important, all those things. But your skeletal muscle is one of the most important organs in your body from the perspective of it allows you to move through the environment. It is the largest metabolic sink. Like, it stores, outside of your adipose tissue, which stores fat, it is the other largest storage of energy in your body. It's your ability to produce force. So like moving, catching yourself in a fall, getting out of the way of danger, any of those things. If you look at the data on longevity, there's a few key metrics that like predict how long you're going to live. One of them is obviously your VO2 max. We've talked about this before, like your cardiovascular capacity. The other one is like your hand grip strength, your ability to produce force in your lower limbs, so like your calf muscles and like how quickly they can, produce force, and your ability to go from sitting to standing without using your hands. Like, those are big predictors of longevity, because those are measures of like how capable are you of interacting in the environment and taking care of yourself. And so then when you look at this is an interesting statistic. I'd have to go pull this up in our CRM, like one of our databases. But when we have people fill out our macro calculator, we've had probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million people fill out our macro calculator. And recently we've added a piece of information that's like, what's your major goal? And everybody's goal, 90% of people, is to look better, right? So when you think about how do you change the way your body looks, you basically have two options. You either reduce your body size by losing body fat, by being in a calorie deficit, or you build muscle tissue to make your body look like you want it to look.
The shape, yeah.
And so lifting weights is really the only meaningful way to do that. And weights can be your own body weight or it can be like barbells, dumbbells, cables, anything like that. Anything that provides resistance to your muscle tissue.
You know it's interesting. I haven't heard the grip analogy, like, or if I have, maybe I just don't remember. But I didn't realize that was a predictor. Why is that? Is that just because it's a functional like movement, and it's just
No,
it's obviously needed for like feeding yourself and grabbing things, or what's the reason behind that?
it's more of it's like a proxy measure of like your overall like
So it's just a measure of
functional capacity, right? Generally, if
okay.
you have good hand grip strength, you have decent muscle tone, decent muscle mass, you're neurologically intact.
Okay.
You can produce force. So, and I actually was on a paper that published something on this.
That's very cool. Yeah, I don't think I knew that.
Let me see. Yeah, so this was a paper that was published a while ago. The association between hand grip strength and diabetes on activities of daily living disability in older Mexican Americans. Wow. And I mean, I don't know how much time you've ever spent like reading like associative data, like how predictive are things. So this is interesting. Compared with participants who were not weak and did not have diabetes, those that had diabetes only, were weak only, and were both weak and had diabetes experienced a 1.94, so a 94% higher rate of disabilities of active daily living.
And this was just from their differences in grip strength?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, you can kind of look at that across the board, but basically, like, what you see is your ability to maintain, like, muscle mass and strength as you age is incredibly important.
Yeah, for sure. Right? Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So, like, I'd have to go back. It's been so long since I've looked at this, but, like, the control group, whatever, but, like, having poor grip strength / as a proxy measure of your ability to, like, the overall health of your musculoskeletal system is a very strong predictor of disability in old age. And then disability is a predictor of dying.
Makes me want to go on Amazon and buy one of those grip machines that tells you what.
Oh, dude, I watched a video on YouTube when I couldn't sleep one night of some guy who just like spent 100 days just doing like forearm exercises. Oh, yeah. And how big his hands got. I'm like, I might want to do that just so I have like giant hands and forearms.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd be curious to see how much. I would assume it's measured in PSI, right? So I don't know what that. Be curious to see what mine looks like. Anyways,
5 billion PSI.
So if we define lifting weights, probably doesn't need much of a definition, obviously. But I mean, when we talk about what that actually means, I mean, some people, again, I think some people think powerlifting or bodybuilding, but really, if in the context of what we're talking about, lifting weights, we're just talking about resistance training, which is many different forms. I mean, it could just be simple dumbbells, it could be machines, it could be bands, even your own body weight, right? So that's the thing I want to clarify to people. If we're talking about lifting weights, it's really just resistance training. And Brad's already talked about why that's so important and how beneficial that is and what that can do for your longevity. There's also the people that think that, they do it for looks, which is fine. I'm not knocking anybody that does it for looks. If you're doing it for looks, it does come with additional benefits beyond that. So, hey, it's nothing but a positive, right? But so, and the interesting thing, and I didn't learn this until, actually, I can remember the guy that told me this. I was probably 16 years old, and I was kind of, in my weightlifting phase where I wanted the big arms and the chest, right? That's all I cared about at that age. But what I remember him saying
Turns
to me,
out
he was like,
that's all we care about, even in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah. So, but the one thing he said to me that I didn't, again, at the time, it was like, oh, I didn't know that, is he was like, when your muscles don't grow while you're lifting muscles, they grow when you're resting, your muscles are broken down and they're repairing themselves. And I just had never thought of it that way. And so, but maybe we can dive into some of that next. But, obviously, in order for muscle to grow, you have to give it a a reason to.
Stimulus.
So there has to be a stimulus, and those muscles then adapt to the stimulus by rebuilding themselves and becoming stronger, and that's how that process happens, right? So it strengthens your bones, it strengthens your muscles as well. So overall beneficial for your musculoskeletal system. But Brad, from a physiology standpoint, maybe you could walk us through what's happening in the body when you lift weights. Like, why is it so transformative for, your metabolism, hormone impact, and just your overall health,
Yeah.
in general? Like, what's happening there?
I mean, before we get into that, I think there is an important just point to make up at the top is this process I'm about to describe is the major difference between biology and machines.
Okay.
Right? If you stress a machine, eventually it breaks.
Mm-hmm.
If you stress a biological organism, it adapts to the stress and gets stronger. Like, those are fundamentally different. Yes, steel is stronger than bone, but
it has a breaking point. It's not like it can adapt.
Bone you can stress and it adapts, right? Muscle you can stress and it adapts. Your heart you can stress and it adapts. So that is a core function of biology. What makes it different from non-biological things.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing, whenever we engage in resistance training, what we are doing is we are giving the body signals that it needs to adapt so the next time it faces that task, it's an easier task. And so here's what happens at like a cellular hormonal level. When you lift weights, a couple things happen. One is you do get like micro tears in the muscle tissue, right? So think about your muscle tissue is basically like hands doing tug of war, right? Like pulling on a rope. Like that is, you've got these myosin and actin filaments, and they basically just like pull like a rope, right? And so when you put tension on that, sometimes the proteins in there break apart just from the mechanical tension. So you get these like micro trauma, micro tears, whatever. That's part of what happens. The other thing is you are increasing the blood flow to your muscle tissue. So you're increasing the flow of nutrients and hormones to your muscle tissue. You are sending nervous system signals to your muscle tissue. So you're like rewiring how the nerves work. So you basically have nerves that go from your brain to your spinal cord out. And then you actually have nerves that attach at these things called motor end plates in your muscle tissue. And that's how you like control your muscles and your activity. And so then you get like changes in hormones from your body that are released when you exercise, right? That's not huge. It's not like when you lift, your testosterone level goes up 5 billion%. It's just like, it's a small increase, right? And it's fairly acute and it goes back down. But what happens is you create an environment where you have your body starts to go into rebuilding mode. It's like, oh shoot, these things are, kind of broken. I need to put them back together. You have more nutrients and you have a hormonal kind of profile / milieu that's like, oh, okay, we're in building mode now. And so what will happen is, in theory, when you rebuild your muscle tissue after you train, it will be, I'm just going to make a number up, 1% bigger, stronger than before you trained before. Right? And so that's how your body adapts. Is then you continue to repeat and stress it. It's like, oh, I need to adapt again and again and again. And this is where the idea of like progressive overload comes from. Right? Is you just have to keep kind of testing the limit of your body and asking it to adapt.
So, yeah, and it's the way you described it is, because just thinking back to my textbooks from like the personal training textbooks and whatnot, the way they kind of described it is the muscles are sort of like inner. So we don't need to go too far into this, but like when you're actually like during the eccentric phase, or excuse me, the concentric phase, isn't it kind of like, and maybe this is a crude analogy, but like the muscle fibers are kind of like rubbing on each other? Like what is that why they break down? Like what is actually happening there?
No, it's the tension, right?
Okay, so it's the tension that
Yeah.
But,
So you got to think it's like you are grabbing a rope and pulling, right? And so there's tension,
okay,
but
so
then you've got like somebody else pulling on the other side, right? And now imagine instead of it being like a cable or rope, like it's biological material. So as it stresses, there's like the proteins can break apart,
okay,
right?
okay,
It's like just think about you have beef jerky and you pull on it and it tears apart. Like
sure,
that's
yeah,
literally
same
what you're
thing.
doing. Or you're tearing a steak. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah. So why don't we, piggybacking off that and what you're doing to your muscles, and we just talked about how it rebuilds and how that's important for when you age, and obviously when you know if you're, we have a lot of people that listen who are kind of in that menopause phase where they start to think about, if I'm looking to preserve muscle, if I'm looking to strengthen my bones, it feels like that's a pretty important thing for me in my, again, if my situation here is I'm a female entering menopause, because correct me if I'm wrong, during that phase energy goes down, you are more at risk for losing bone density, muscle mass, and so it becomes even more important during that phase, right? And so I think that's probably, as for people who are listening, if this is you, thinking about, am I lifting right now? And if not, that's something you probably really want to consider, because as you age, I mean, that risk goes up, and especially as your hormones change, and it also doesn't it. I mean, it helps with blood sugar regulation. This is my own curiosity, asking you this question next, but like, how does it actually help with blood sugar regulation? This is kind of your
Yeah.
area of expertise, right?
I mean, so we've talked about this on the podcast before, but it's through a couple things. One is obviously in the very acute sense, when you're engaging in resistance training, your muscles are going to require more glucose, so it's just going to use what's available, right? Depending on the intensity you're operating at, some of it comes from what's stored inside the muscle tissue, and then it also pulls glucose from circulation. The other thing it does is it increases the insulin sensitivity of your muscle cells for a short period of time.
So that's
after
also acute.
exercise for a couple hours, it's
Mhm.
more receptive to insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can that become a chronic thing?
If you're exercising every day, yes.
Okay, but you would need.
And
So you
as
would
you
need to keep that up.
as you engage in weight loss, that will improve it as well, right?
Okay, gotcha.
But to kind of to go back to your previous comment though, before you kind of ask the specific question, what you're describing is the whole thing about biology is we adapt to the stresses we place on ourselves, or the lack of stress we place on ourselves,
Or-
right? So a
good
large
point, yeah.
part of what happens in aging and why some people age faster versus others is if you don't stress your body, it's just going to deteriorate, because it's not like I don't need to do this, right? Maintaining muscle mass and bone mass is energetically expensive, right? So if you don't stress your bone tissue, it's not going to maintain the bone density. If you don't stress your muscle tissue, it's not going to maintain the muscle size. If you don't stress the nervous system to produce force quickly and as much as it can, you're going to lose
Right.
strength. If you don't stress your heart, it's going to just be lazy, right? If you don't stress your lungs, the capacity for your lungs to expand, absorb oxygen, transport oxygen, and breathe out CO2 is going to be diminished as well. So this is the upside of biology, and the fact that we are adaptive to stress, whereas machines don't adapt to stress, is also the downside,
Yeah.
right? If you don't run the system, you don't stress the system, it will fall apart, right? It's kind of like the difference between a Toyota, you can just let it sit in your garage for forever and it'll just run, versus if you have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, like you got to get it out and you got to drive it hard.
This makes me think that this is why it's so important
To
like,
do
be- do-
things.
well, but
Just
yes,
do
but to do
stuff.
things, but do something that you actually enjoy and can sustain. Because if you're doing something that is too intense or doing something that's too hard or you don't enjoy it, good luck sustaining it. right? Like I think it's very important to pick an activity that you enjoy. Like I know you always talk about basketball. I know you love to play basketball, and that's something you'll do for your entire life. I like to throw the football. I like to run around. That's something that I'll do my entire life, and I don't. It never feels like an obligation or a chore, right? And those things I think are so huge when it comes to finding something that you can continually do. Like that's a huge factor in your ability to
Yeah.
consistently do that through your life.
I mean, the thing is, like, I 100% agree with you. But, I don't want to say but, and you have to realize as a grown adult, there are things that you're going to have to do that you don't love for the sake of your future self, right? Like, I love to play basketball. I wish that was all I could do. But I also realize, hey, I still have to lift weights, right?
Yeah.
Like, I still have to go to the gym, and I also have to stretch. I also have to like take care of my body, right? Like if I'm sitting at my desk all day like this, like okay, I probably got to go get a massage every once in a while. I probably got to stretch out my shoulders.
Go on a walk.
I probably got to go on a walk. Like I also just have to take care of the body that I was born into.
It's funny because I don't particularly enjoy, like I don't really enjoy lifting weights, but I do. It's
at this point in my life, I don't either.
Yeah, but what's funny is after the workout, I never regret having done it. I'm always like, I'm glad I did that, but I don't really enjoy it that much. But like you said, you do it because it's like it's very important to do.
Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing: is lifting weights really that bad and uncomfortable? I mean, unless you're like trying to max out, do max effort,
depends on,
or you're trying to like just get as big as you can for bodybuilding.
Right.
The level of discomfort, like lifting on a daily basis, except for the days that your coach programs split squats, like it's moderately uncomfortable. It's no worse than sitting through like a crappy 1 hour meeting that you don't want to be at. Like realistically, you're like, it's kind of uncomfortable.
It's much easier if you're already mostly where you want to be too, and you're just kind of like, I'm just trying to maintain, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where I'm at. So it's really not that bad, and you don't have to like. It's not like you have to be lifting weights for hours.
Yeah, think about it like when you first started your career. The first year at work where you had no idea what you were doing, like was probably hard. But then by the time you get to your 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, its days can be challenging, but you feel more equipped, and it's at worst it's like modestly uncomfortable. Like I had to give a presentation on Monday, and it was like in an academic formal setting, and I haven't done that in forever. But like I've accumulated enough experience
it wasn't
that it was
to you.
Like I was a little bit nervous about it, and like it was a little uncomfortable, but it wasn't the I'm sweating bullets, like oh my god, I can't sleep the night before, that it was 15 years
initially
ago.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't we let's get into some myths, because I do want to tackle a few things that I promised we would at the beginning of the show that I know are concerns people have, and because there are a lot of them, especially when it comes to this topic specifically, not just the nutrition and fitness industry as a whole, but specifically about lifting weights. The biggest one is lifting weights makes women bulky. It's going to make me bulky, right? Total, totally false. Building muscle takes so much time and effort and eating in a surplus of calories that most women just end up looking tighter, and you just end up looking the way you want to look, right? I mean, I don't think I could stress enough, like building actual muscle takes a long time. I mean, unless you're like brand new, it happens pretty quickly in the initial phase if you're brand new. Outside of that, once those newbie gains are done, it takes a lot of time and effort, right? Like, I mean, we're talking, what's the rate again? Like, what's the, for women, X amount per month? It's something very small.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in optimal scenarios, it's probably 1/4 of a pound a month for women. I mean, there's a lot of just things to know. I mean, for example, just the hormone profile of men versus women for building muscle tissue is so different. Like men's testosterone levels are like, even in a male with low testosterone, is like 10 times higher than women. Like I'd have to go double check. Like what's a normal T levels in women? Yeah, it's like exactly right? It's 15 to 70, and normal T levels in men is like 300 to 1,000. So it's 10 to 20 times higher, right? Or even 50 times higher. But it's like an order of magnitude higher. So that alone, it's like, okay, the hormonal profile is going to mean that you have a slower rate of muscle gain than men, generally speaking. Now, it's not true all the time, but it's a little bit more difficult. The other thing is the distribution of androgen receptors in your body is different. So there's a reason that men, like when you go through puberty as a man versus a woman, men develop bigger shoulders, their arms fill out, they get chest muscles. Women don't, right? Because we actually have a higher concentration of androgen receptors in our upper body than women do. Like that's a known fact. So those are some of the things at play. The other piece is, to your point, it takes a long time to build a meaningful amount of muscle tissue, especially in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to take years of lifting heavy or moderately heavy at higher volume and eating in a calorie surplus for a long period of time. Now that's not true if you're taking exogenous
stuff,
steroids, right? Like if you're taking things, it's going to be much different. But for most women, I mean, you're not going to just like lift weights for 3 months and wake up and be like, oh my God, why do I look like this? Like it's going to take a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't worry about getting bulky. Just go lift. You're going to, when we see these pictures of these fit women, right, that are like, these just the picturesque, like, oh, that woman looks super fit. Like, it's from weightlifting, right? The curves that you're after, the way you want to look, a lot of it's from weightlifting. So you're not going to look bulky. You're going to be closer to how you want to look. I think the other, and maybe this isn't so much of a myth, but it's more of a question that people ask, and that is, should I lose fat before lifting, or should I lift and then lose fat? And I think that's probably, for some people, maybe that depends. That the answer is it depends. But in general, would you lean one way or the other? Like, do you think it's better to lean up first and then build muscle, or just start lifting and then try to take the fat off later? Is there a more optimal route?
I mean, there's two answers to that. One is it depends on your starting point, right? Like if you're already fairly lean, like there's no point in getting leaner. Like just start building muscle tissue.
Yeah.
Now the other side of the coin there is, if you feel like you have body fat to lose, go lose the body fat first, because otherwise what's going to happen is you are going to like train for 3 to 4 months to build muscle tissue, and you're going to be in a small calorie surplus, and you're going to look in the mirror halfway through this process and you'll be like, oh, I look a little bloated or a little fat, so I need to stop and I'm going to go then diet. And then you're basically going to waffle between 3 months of building muscle and freaking out and dieting, and you're never going to make long-term progress. Right? I mean, from my experience, most people who want to build a meaningful amount of muscle tissue, it will take a couple years at least to get to where you want to get to. Right? And I'll be totally honest with you. That's the reason I probably don't weigh 195, 200. Right? Is for me to be that focused in lifting at that volume and being able to like train that hard and recover and eat that much at this point in my life, like I just don't have the time, and I'm not willing to sacrifice all the other things I want to do to just focus on getting a lot bigger. Right? Now, if I would have done that at 18, 19, 20, when I didn't have everything else going on, but like, hey, right now it's like, okay, if I want to go play basketball, I can't go crush legs and then go play 3 days later. Like I'm too old for that. Or I'm too deconditioned for that.
There you go. Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a balancing act.
You ready for a nuanced question, for lack of a better word?
I don't believe in nuance.
I love this one. Is cardio better for weight loss, or is weightlifting better for weight loss? Take it away.
So the answer is, the best thing for weight loss if you go and you look at the studies that compare weight loss versus resistance training, or cardio versus resistance training for weight loss, the optimal situation is you do both. You lose the most amount of body fat and improve your body composition the most if you do both. If you want to do just one or the other, you will lose more body weight by just doing cardio, but your body composition improves the most if you do resistance training instead of cardio. So what you really want to ask yourself is, am I trying to lose weight or am I trying to improve my body composition? And I think we've got a graph on this. Let's see if I can pull it up. Macros Inc. Resistance training versus cardio. This is the benefit of like having written all this stuff yourself, is you can just go look it up and you'd be like, oh yeah. Keep talking while I try to find this graph.
I don't know if I should talk because there's something I wanted to read to you that's kind of a myth, but I wanted to read. It's not something I wrote, and it's a little bit long, so I was going to read this to you, but maybe I should wait until after you've got that.
I'll have to, because there's a really famous graph that I've.
If you think it's going to take a few minutes to pull it up, I can just start reading this then.
This is it. This is not the graph that I made, but it's the exact paper that I was referring to. Oh my God. I just blew up my whole screen. Where did that go? Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Well, for some reason it's not working. So, let me look it up. Okay. So there's like a whole bunch of debate about statistical significance and yada, yada, yada. But when you look at the meta-analyses and all sorts of stuff, like this is the reality of what you see, right? If you engage in just aerobic training, you basically, your lean body mass kind of stays the same, and you lose, this is a fairly short study, it's, let's call it 3.5 pounds of body weight, roughly. This is just from cardio, aerobic training. If you do just resistance training, you do lose body fat, but you also add lean body mass, right? So your body composition is going to change a little bit differently, right? Now, if you engage in both, you lose more body fat and you build a little bit of muscle tissue. So it's really ideal to do both.
I wonder if these were people that were new to both.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets into all the nuances of like, what was the population, what was the time, what was the calorie, like all that stuff you can just argue ad nauseum. But here's what we know. If you want to lose the most amount of body weight, do both. If you don't mind losing a little bit of lean mass while you're dieting and you don't want to lift weights, you can just do cardio and you can lose weight. If you want to maintain the lean mass you have and maybe build a little bit, like a very small amount, while you're dieting, try to minimize the true cardio and spend most of your time lifting weights and walking, right? So those are all the options. Now, obviously, it's do both, but most of us don't have, like, I don't have time to go, do an hour of cardio and an hour of weightlifting 5 days a week. Like, I just don't.
Yeah. One of the things before we move on to the next thing is I was going to read this to you because this is, like I said, it's maybe not categorized as a myth, but I'll just start reading it. So traditionally viewed as a waste product, lactate is an energy source formed when muscle fibers undergo accelerated glycolysis and is not a major cause of fatigue, right? Because it wasn't, historically, like one of the things that we thought, like when your muscles start burning, it's because of the lactic acid buildup, right? Or that's kind of at least that was what I learned. And I'll read the rest of this here. But so they have a bunch of information on this. And then the summary says this. At physiological pH levels, lactic acid is dissociated into lactate ions and hydrogen ions. It is therefore better to refer to lactate rather than lactic acid when referring to glycolysis. Traditionally viewed as a waste product, lactate is an energy substrate formed when muscle fibers undergo accelerated glycolysis and is not stimulated by a lack of oxygen in muscle. It plays little role in fatigue, but may counteract the fatiguing effects of potassium ion buildup, which impairs calcium ion release. So all of that essentially means what?
I mean,
like, so when we're fatiguing, right? When we're like, oh, I can't, like I got one more rep left in me.
Yeah.
Is that, how does that relate?
Muscular fatigue is not a single thing, right? It is here's my interpretation of the literature, and if somebody has a better one, please send me the information on it. I would be happy to change my stance. It is a result. So like when you're doing a set and you feel the burn and you like can't do anymore, it's a combination of the metabolic reactions, the chemical reactions that occur in your muscle tissue have a relatively narrow band of pH that they can handle, right? So when you go through glycolysis, you produce a meaningful amount of acid. Okay? That's where the hydrogen ions come from, lactate, whatever. So part of it is a drop in pH in your muscle tissue impairs your body's ability to create more ATP.
Mm-hmm.
And you get acid buildup in your muscle tissue. So what actually happens is the lactate binds the hydrogen, or the pyruvate and the hydrogen ions get bound together, and they form lactate. They get shuttled out of your muscle tissue.
Yeah.
And then that lactate eventually gets turned back into glucose through the Cori cycle, and then that glucose gets recycled, ATP, right? So that's part of. So this is the reason why, like why we initially thought lactate was associated with fatigue is like when you're doing maximal effort, like sprinting, as you get to fatigue, lactate goes up, like it shows up in your blood.
Right.
So it's an associative marker, right? It's basically like you're maxing out glycolysis, right? That's a very, very crude way to look at it, but for the average person, that's like a good like mental proxy. So fatigue is caused partially through like just changes in the chemistry inside your skeletal muscle. The other one is neuromuscular, right? So you have your neurons that are connected to your muscle tissue, like the release of acetylcholine and calcium, like at some point that process gets rate limited, right? So that's a part of it as well. And so it's a combination of a lot of different things. Electrolyte imbalances, like, as you get sodium and potassium and the shift in all those ions, like all those things combined for fatigue. It's a fairly complicated process. But what we just know about like lactate is it is a proxy measure for like how much anaerobic activity is going on.
And that's kind of it. Like that's the main takeaway from it, right?
Yeah. And
cool.
When people say like lactate is an energy source, I mean it is, but it's more of your body evolved to find a way to take a byproduct, like a waste product,
stress,
of glycolysis and turn it back into something useful, right? It's like,
Gotcha.
we have lactate that like kind of chemically looks like glucose. So let's just turn it back into glucose.
That's super, super cool way to look at it. Okay, cool. I was thinking, sorry, I think I'm still kind of getting over this wonderful cold. When you let's make this practical.
No, only theoretical.
How can someone get started lifting? Right? Like, is it just? I mean, and I guess maybe a better way to phrase this is, what advice would you have for someone who's like, I've never lifted weights in my life. I want to. I'm nervous. Like, I don't know what's going to happen if I step into the gym. Like, are people going to look at me? Are people going to think I'm ridiculous? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, someone who's overwhelmed, where do you start? Like, if you had, you've had clients, obviously many clients before, probably in that situation, what's your advice to them?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I have for anybody who wants to start lifting weights, hire a personal trainer for a month. Go into a gym and have a professional just show you the basics of lifting weights, whether it's free weights, barbells, cables, machines, body weight. And in that first month, like, ask them to show you progressions of like, hey, here's where I'm at today. Here's how if I want to do push-ups, then I can only do like wall push-ups. If I, wanted to do barbell work or I wanted to do dumbbell work, but I can really only handle cables or machines, like, hire somebody to show you the proper movement, have conversations and teach you about different exercises and what muscle groups they work. Have them give you a plan, and then just start working on that for like the first 6 months to a year is really all about it's learning how to move and then also learning what it like feels like to lift weights, right?
Yeah.
Because at first it feels very, very uncomfortable because you're like, oh, why are my muscles burning? This is really
And it
hard.
burns,
I can't do
exactly.
it. And then eventually you're just like, oh, that's normal, right? It's
Mhm.
like the first time when you go out and you play a sport and you like experience that you are so gassed and like you can't breathe and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And then you're just like,
Mhm.
oh no, this is just normal. Like I just need like 10 seconds to like recover, right? It's a little bit of it's like learning how your body works and its thresholds and how it responds to stress. And so I'd say like the best place to start is honestly like just go hire a personal trainer for a month. Like let's say it costs you, let's say you do 2 sessions a week for a month and it costs you $400 or $500. Like that's an investment that you take that education that you learn like in person for the next 30 years of your life. So you've now amortized it. It's $20 a year for the knowledge that you have to like keep your body in good condition for 30 years. That's an amazing investment.
They can hire one of our coaches, right?
Yeah, you can hire one of our coaches for a fraction of that.
For sure. Sometimes the amount of money I've seen people say that they've paid personal trainers is sometimes pretty wild, especially when I think about how much value we offer and what we charge for our price point. Like totally lopsided. Price points down here, the values up here, so it's pretty crazy. So yeah, if you guys are, to Brad's point, if you are interested, and we also do have a training only option. So like if your nutrition's good and you're like, I just want help with my training and I want to learn this, there you go.
It's funny.
Anyone listening, shoot me an email, Dylan, DYLAN at macrozinc.net. I'll hook you up. Go ahead, Brad.
People who know me, it's like I don't really spend money on anything. I just don't care. Like, I just don't like stuff. Like, if you look at my closet, 90% of it is either clothes I've had for 15 years or clothes I've gotten for free. Like it's just, but I have no problem investing in my body and the food I eat.
Or like,
right?
yeah.
Like if I'm like, God, I really need to go get a massage because like I just have some issues. Like $100, don't care, right? If I needed to hire like a personal trainer, best money I can spend, right? If I want to eat high quality food, great. Like if I have to go without something else in my life, like
whatever,
I don't really care about it anyway. Like I have one body and I have one brain.
What about experience? Do you have a problem buying experience?
This is, I think,
or is that it depends kind of answer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point where, to me, the experiences that matter the most is just like my day-to-day life. Right? Like me going to spend a ton of money to go to like Bora Bora or Tahiti and like have a over the water hut and like
bungalow,
be wined and dined. I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Like that's for some people. Yeah. Like for me, it's like, oh, this morning, did I have like a really nice start to my day where like I got to have coffee with my wife, I got to hang out with the baby, I got to go to the gym, yeah, like
that type of experience. Right.
Because that's what life to me is like all about, right?
100%.
Like now we'll go on vacations and stuff, but like for me, experiences like the day-to-day experience and relationships I have and the people and like, so if I can invest in the body that I have and like taking care of it and the brain I have and taking care of it, there's no better investment.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm going to summarize a couple of things real quick, and then I have another kind of sort of, I guess, final question that I want to ask you because I do think it's one that people ask a lot. But real quick, before I get there, let me quick summarize the practical takeaways. Here's how I would summarize this for people looking to get into weightlifting or looking to have a consistent routine and like how to make it practical. Don't overcomplicate it. I would also say that just a couple days a week is plenty. You don't need to go, it doesn't need to be anything insane. I would also say, because we haven't really talked about this, but compound movements, I think, especially, so when I say compound, right, this is many muscle groups that are involved. So squats, like presses, whether that's a shoulder press or, chest press, rows, deadlifts, things like that. Those are really good basic movements for you to focus on. And then, like Brad had suggested, I think form is also something you really need to focus on. And that's where a personal trainer can help. Make sure your form is good, you're doing good compound movements. I would also say there's a lot of value in tracking your progress, right? Because if I do 185 pounds on bench press for 3 sets of 12, and I write that down, then next time I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do 3 sets of 12 for 190 pounds. So I've added 5 more pounds, and I'm tracking my progress that way, right? So track it if you can, and that way you're progressing. And then, of course, get rest. I think people that try to work out, 6 to 7 days a week, A, you're going to burn yourself out. B, you're not giving yourself time to recover. It's really those rest days that are important. So those are my kind of practical takeaways to sort of summarize, a lot of things that Brad said. Anything you'd add to it?
I mean, I would say the effort and intentionality in which you train with is way more important than all the details of like sets, reps, exact exercise. I think for most people,
for most people, right? For like, sure, absolutely.
If you went to the gym and you did every day for 10 years, you did like some push-ups, some sort of chest press, like a weighted chest press, whether it's a machine, dumbbell, barbell, whatever. You did some sort of horizontal pull, a row, whatever, a vertical pull, a pull-up, a lat pull-down. You did some sort of squat variation, whether that's leg press, a true squat, some sort of deadlift, whether that's, a Romanian deadlift or whatever, some version of a shoulder press / raise, some version of a bicep curl, some version of a tricep extension. Like if you just did the basic 10 exercises with great intentionality and effort with a modest amount of volume and just progressively increase the weight or the sets for 10 years, you'd continue making progress over like,
for sure.
Oh, I got to do this program and then switch to this program and I got to do this undulating periodization. It's like, that's maybe important for like 2% of the population. Like if I'm being totally honest with you.
Yeah. And not even everything you said, I think is just, you don't even necessarily have to like make progress on that. Even people like, that's a great just maintaining like a maintenance routine. To me, everything you described is kind of like everything I try to do. And I'm not trying to get stronger. I'm just trying to maintain. And it works, right? I don't need to do like isolation movements because I don't care if my biceps get bigger. I'm just trying to maintain. And so I really do kind of focus on all those overall compound movements like you suggested. I think that's great. Okay. So the question I wanted to get to before we wrap things up, you got a few minutes left here, but the one that we get a lot and that people wonder about is, how do I know if I'm lifting heavy enough, right? So like, what does that even mean to lift heavy, right? And my view is like, well, that's subjective, because 100 pounds to one person might feel super heavy and 100 pounds to another person is like a feather, right? So talk to us about the whole heavy concept. Do I need to lift heavy? What is heavy lifting? Like, how do I know if I'm doing that? Like, should I care?
If by the second or third set of the exercise you're doing, you are reaching like true failure at whatever your goal, like let's say you're trying to do sets of 5 or sets of 8 or sets of 15. If by rep like 4, 5, 7, 8, 14, 15, like it's true failure to where like you just can't get there, you're lifting heavy enough. If you can get through every rep of every exercise, you need to lift heavier. Now, if you're doing sets of 3 and you're failing every set, you don't need to lift heavier. But I'm talking about like in general for,
For sure. It's a good way to...
cheesy.
That's a good blanket answer for people that is really going to pretty much apply to everyone.
You're a
anything else?
Answer.
Anything else you would add to this episode? Do you feel like we've covered a good amount? Covered the important stuff?
Just remember, the intentionality and intensity with which you train is far more important than the like specific program you're running.
I wish I had that Homer Simpson sound bit where he's like, can you repeat the part where you said all this stuff about the things? I would have played that right now for you.
How many cartoons do you watch in your life?
My kids have cartoons on the TV. Do I actively watch them? No. Honestly,
that's not true.
The only show I watch or will watch is Stranger Things. Otherwise, do you know how many people have said like you should watch this show, you should watch this show? I'm like, I just don't watch TV. I don't watch shows. Like
I don't believe you at all.
that's fine. I really do not watch TV. My wife actually gives me a ton of crap for it because she's like, "Well, won't you watch this movie with me?" I'm like, "I'm not interested. Like, I don't really want to watch a movie." So I don't know. I'm just not a. But Stranger Things, I will. Did you know the Vikings play tonight? I'll watch that.
What are you talking about?
The Vikings, Minnesota Vikings. You gonna watch them tonight? They play
Who are the Minnesota Vikings?
They play the Los Angeles Chargers.
What
Can you
sport
name the
is
quarter?
this?
Can you name the quarterback for the Chargers?
Tim Tebow.
You don't know? Okay, all right.
How would I know that?
I don't know. Can you name the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks?
No.
You are from Washington. This is blasphemous.
Football. Football doesn't make any sense to me. The only sport I watch is basketball, and I only watch if either I'm at the game physically or one of my athletes is playing.
Who's the GOAT of football?
I think it's Tom Brady, just because he has the most rings, right?
Who's the GOAT of basketball? In your opinion?
I'm gonna have the hottest
I don't think you
take
say-
of anybody.
You're going to say Steph Curry, aren't you?
Yes.
I know. I knew you were going to say that. Well, there is an argument to be made for that. I could get on board with it.
Here's what I would say. If you could go and watch an entire career's worth of clips from Jordan, Kobe, Steph, LeBron, and you looked at like the physical attributes of all those people and you saw what they were able to do, you'd be like, this guy's doing more than you would imagine he could do.
Yeah, I could get on board with that argument.
Just go watch the fourth quarter of the USA France gold medal game last summer.
I'll do that, actually. I don't think I've seen that.
Oh my
recall it.
Oh my God, you have to watch it.
Okay, I will. I'll check it out. I'm actually interested. I will.
It is one of the most spectacular things you will ever see in your life.
I know we got to go. Who's the GOAT of F1? Hamilton?
Yeah.
Who's second? Schumacher?
Probably, although I didn't really get to see him drive, so.
Okay. But you got to watch Lewis.
I did.
Okay. I think we're going to duck out of here. I hope you guys all very much enjoyed this episode. I'm going to do my damnedest to get some good music for next week that Brad suggested, since
and doesn't get us
Stranger
fined by
Things.
the FCC or whoever it is.
Yes, that's correct. I'm gonna do my best to make sure that we don't get fined. Okay. So that being said,
I'm just here so I don't get fined. That's the only thing I know about the NFL is when Marshawn Lynch was at that press conference.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember that. At least he was being honest. Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna do this beautiful outro music, and we will see you guys next week. So, adios.